All right, as you guys know, we've still got 3 more games until we get to the halfway point in the ACC. It's a big week here with home games against nationally ranked Clemson, nationally ranked Virginia, and then on the road at Pitt, who's one of the most improved teams in the league and getting votes, I'm sure. So that's just halfway. So I told the team last night at practice, and I don't think this is probably new to you guys, that you have a choice every day you go to practice. You can have a bad practice and go backwards. You can go through the motions and be average, remain the same, or you can push yourself outside your comfort zone and move forward with the hunger to get better. Now, these guys at this point have made the decision to continue to improve and grow and get better, but that's going to have to continue until the end of the season. We got to play to our strengths and stay away from our weaknesses. On offense, what does that mean? Well, we got to share the ball. We got to drive it and kick it. We got to drive, kick, swing it. We got to throw flip-ups to our bigs off the pick and roll. We got to play across the midline if it's there. We got to take care of the ball. One of the impressive things so far in the ACC is that, we're taking really good care of the ball. We got 94 assists, 79 turnovers. Our turnover percentage is a lot lower than it probably was, coming into league play. We got to attack off the dribble under control, play through contact off 2 feet. We got to shoot on balance and rhythm threes and take and make great shots. We got to execute play calls. This team can do so much more than any team I've had here in my 3 years with play calls and executing them. They're way better than the first 2 teams I've had at doing that. And I think that's really helped them, and I think that's a strength. Defensively, we got to guard the ball without requiring help for 1 or 2 dribbles minimum. Got to get up the floor towards the ball in the gaps, stripping and ripping, and then contest. You got to be able to do both. And that's where we're trying to get better and better, is be in the gaps and contest 1 movement, not 2. Stay connected, and that's part of getting up the floor. You got to stay connected. Can't get too spread out or extended. At least we don't want to play that way defensively with this team. Got to try to keep the ball out of the second line of our defense, limit shots in the restricted area. We gave up a season low 18 shots in the restricted area against BC. You got to sight check, make contact, and go get the ball. We don't have very much rim protection, shot blocking, and so we got to take charges, keep the ball out of the restricted area, and we got to work really hard just to keep it out of there. I don't need analytics. I don't need a guy named Kenny Palm or a guy named Bart to tell me the strengths and weaknesses of my team. I've known them for a long time, and we got to continue to play to our strengths, stay away from our weaknesses, and we are who we are, and then we have to, add some things. I think we've done that. We've played a little zone. We've gone some different ways of guarding the post. And so we've done some switching. We played smaller, 1 through 5. And so we'll continue on those paths. I think Ty's playing at a really high level. He's the heartbeat of our team. Cam's had back-to-back 20-point games, as has Andrew. Tomorrow, he's shooting the ball at a really high level from 3, 39%. But I thought it was a very telling moment for him on Saturday when he didn't play as well offensively. He's playing good defense and he's helping us rebound, but he's on the bench cheering for his teammates. And Tom Crean and I have a long-standing relationship, and he grabbed me after the game as I was going off the court to tell me how excited Damari was for his teammates on the bench. Those are important things, and he's not the only one. But when I talk to him every day about helping each other and caring about each other, and when I don't have to say it anymore and they just do it, that's when you know that, you're starting to have, really good chemistry with your players. Matt and Davion are, to me, they're kind of the epitome of playing to your strengths and staying away from your weaknesses. They try to do a really good job of that. Davion's shooting the ball a lot better in the ACC, 44% from 3, 100 from the line. And Bobby's playing a lot more confidence. The game's slowing down a little bit for him, which you would expect for somebody who's a freshman. That's a good, really good player and is going to be a really good player. That the more he plays, the more the game's going to slow down. And I think we're beginning to see some residuals of that. Clemson, I got a lot of respect for them. They're a tough, physical, disciplined team, but they can score ball. This makes them really hard to beat them. I was really impressed with their team in December, and they've done nothing to change my opinion on that. Last game, we had the lead at half. We only took 4 bad shots. I say only 4. I'd like to not have that many. But the second half, we took 10. So our offense put a tremendous strain on our defense last game. Our defense got above our man too much from their delay action in the second half, and they got some easy baskets, back cuts. But then what happens is then, you get a little loosened up, and then they start banging threes. And Hemingway killed us from 3. I don't know if he's playing, but he hurt us. But they have 2 all-league players. Hunter Tyson, PJ Hall. Tyson's averaging a double-double. Galloway's playing at a high level. Chase Hunter. They got other good players. They got really good numbers on offense and defense. So it's going to be a hard game. I think, they're 7-0 for a reason. And Brad's a really good basketball coach, always has been. And so I expect it to be a really hard-fought game. Questions?
Steve, about an hour before you were on the teleconference, Brad said Hemingway would not play. So file that in your scouting report.
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, because I hate seeing anybody hurt. And he hit 4 threes, I think, in the second half against us. And so, that's one less weapon we got to deal with.
On the strengths and weaknesses aspect, especially for offense, I don't know that it was a weakness per se in the first 10, 11 games for you, but the 3-point shooting has taken a tick upward. I think it's 6 of the last 7. You've hit double-digit threes. Is that a byproduct of the driving and kicking, or is it an emphasis to get more of those looks and hit those shots?
Well, I think the emphasis has always been there. It's just getting them, and a lot of it's a 2-part thing, right? The guys got to drive it. They got to get on balance off 2 feet. They got to draw the defense, and they got to make an on-time, on-target pass. And then you have to make the decision, are my feet set to shoot it? And if it's not, do I go one more? That's the drive, kick, swing part of it. I just think we're getting more efficient at that. I think we're shooting the right ones. Again, I just repeated, in December, we probably took 14 bad shots. A lot of those were probably, some of those were threes. Some of those were playing off 1 foot, sped up, whatever they were. And so I think that, Ty's doing a really good job of getting people shots. To be quite frank with you, I thought he passed up a couple shots. He should have shot at the rim, maybe at least one against Boston College when he could have laid it up. And he threw it to Andrew for a 3, which we missed. And so they're playing really unselfish too. And so I think those kind of things all kind of go hand in hand. And I told you guys from the summer, and I know it wasn't games, but they shot the ball at a high level from 3. And, we're going to have to continue to do that, in these high level games. And I don't know, we're shooting 40-some% from 3, I think, in the ACC as a team. And that's just, we need to do that. But we need to take the right ones.
Steve, you mentioned the 14 bad shots your team took at Clemson, and you guys only shot 31.2% from within the 2-point range in that second half, which is really unusual. Your team leads the league, and I think in 2-point field goal shooting. What led to taking those bad shots, and how can you avoid that kind of performance tomorrow night?
My guess is we were probably sped up, not playing on balance, and nobody's going to score those shots. I don't care who you are. If you don't play on balance and not sped up, I mean, I'm sure their size probably had something to do with it. They got big players. I mean, PJ's a big guy. He's a good player. And, Hunter Tyson, Shefflin, all those guys have got good size. but I would imagine it was just be slowing down and making the right play and not playing off one foot. And we're doing a much better at that today than we probably were back whenever that was, and early December when we played them, and we were coming off a big win, at Wisconsin, and so just probably playing the right way.
Steve, I
Coach,
know you've mentioned Cameron Hildreth and his outstanding play here of late. How much does that kind of take off the pressure of Ty, where he doesn't really have to have the ball in his hand all the time? Because I know Ty doesn't get tired, but still, how does that help the overall?
Well, I think it helps a lot, John. I mean, those two guys have the ball in their hands probably a lot, but Andrew does too. Andrew has the ball in there at the 4. Bobby can play with the ball in his hands. Davian's more better, off the ball, catching and shooting it. But yeah, I think Cam's helped him a lot with that. And Cam's, backup point guard right now, and so I think, the more handlers you have, the better. I don't know. Damari, he's gotten better at, 1-2 dribbles and not over dribbling. When he does, he turns it over. He did it the other night. He tried to do too much with it early and got the ball taken away from him. And so, again, those guys, they all got to play to their strengths and stay away from their weaknesses. And they know what they are. We've talked about it till we're blue in the face. They've watched film of it over and over and over. But Cam, Cam has helped, a lot in that area. But Ty's the primary ball handler, and he does a really good job with the ball in his hands.
Coach, Cam Hildreth said after the Florida State game that he said he felt like guys 1 through 12 on the team could get a bucket. Over the past couple of games, you've seen huge games from Andrew Carr, Ty, obviously, Damari, Cam Hildreth. How dangerous is this offense when everyone is playing with confidence and chipping in, like you mentioned, and some of the guys coming off the bench especially?
Well, it's the only way we're going to win. We need balance. But all of my teams, majority of the teams I've ever coached that were, good, and most of them have been, is that we've had great balance. And, that's one of the great things about motion, and, also running certain things to get certain people looks where they can take advantage of their strengths. But those guys are all very capable players, and one game doesn't make a season either way, right? You got to continue to play at a high level, just like back in I don't know, when we played Rutgers, people were killing Andrew Carr and Damari, and that's stupid. It's one game, it's a long season. And you're gonna get better as you go. Teams get better, get worse, and we're getting better, but we got to continue to get better. And so those guys all got to continue on that path, and it makes us so much more harder to guard, and they're playing with more and more confidence, and I think confidence is a big thing.
Coach, I've seen you use the 1-3-1 zone a bit lately. How have you are you happy with how they've looked in that, or what do they need to do better in that look?
I mean, I don't know. I thought it was effective against Louisville. We ran it one time against Florida State. I think they dunked it. And I looked at the bench and said, I think we'll be getting out of that now. I think what happened against Florida State, we prepared for something a little different that what they had shown. They ran something a little different. We didn't really adjust, and they threw it down there and dunked it, and I had enough of that. And so I thought it was really effective against Boston College. I mean, a lot of it's scouting, and how you think they're going to attack it. I like it because, especially like it when maybe we were in foul, you don't tend to foul as much in it. You got basically 3 guys guarding the ball. You got it cupped. Guys can't just drive it down there and drive it to the basket. I mean, if they can, then it's a really bad 1-3-1. I think it's really good having Bobby or Andrew at the top. They're long and athletic, and when those guys are, they got to throw over them. The thing with the 1-3-1 is you got to throw over, not through. If they can ping passes and throw them around, direct line passes is no good. The ball has to go over the defense, and so it's not something that you stay in forever. but I do think it's been a good change up for us, just like we've done doubling the post some, off the pass, off the dribble. We could go big to big, just different looks in there to kind of help. It's like baseball again. Can't, unless you're Nolan Ryan, you better throw fastballs all the time. You're going to get hit, you gotta have some change ups.
Right. And then at this point in the season, it feels like the roles and the rotation are kind of firming up a bit, or at least that's how it appears. I'm curious with a guy like Zhao, who's not really involved like that right now. What, do you want to see from him to see maybe he can make that push?
Always worry about the guys who don't play? That just blows my mind. Every place I've ever been, people always want to ask me, what about this guy? Why you ain't playing? I mean, we play the guys to play to win the game, period.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. I've never been any different on that. Zhao got hurt, and I've said this over and over and over, and he's not responded well since he's been hurt. And I had a meeting today, about potential of medically registering him. I don't know how that's going to go, but when we get that decision, I'll announce it, and that's the end of that.
Steve, speaking to offensive confidence and it breeding, was it shaken at all after the first Clemson game or after the trip to Rutgers?
Yeah, confidence is a funny thing, right? I don't remember. God, who did we play? Clemson? Didn't we have finals after that? I think.
Yeah, and then the trip to Atlanta for LSU.
Got it pretty well, against Atlanta early, against LSU early. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think they've always been pretty confident offensive players. I just think maybe the ebb and flow of the game. I mean, it's not very confident when you run the first play against Rutgers and they take it from you and go down there and dunk it. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a very good day. But to their credit, what'd they do? They came back and beat Duke. So I try to give them confidence, man. I really do. I think it's really important thing with your team. And so I don't think so, Connor. I don't really remember that. I'm sure there was some doubt, I mean, it's not fun, when you lose. And we had a tough half at Clemson. We had a really good first half. We just had a really bad second half, to their credit. And Clemson had a lot to do with it, and we did some too. And Rutgers just was a bad game. I mean, and credit to Rutgers, they're good. And but we've we learned. That's the thing you want to do, is you want to learn from something that you want to learn from good things and bad things. And so I feel like we've learned from that.
Steve, what do the kids like? What are your players like? Do they like 9 o'clock games? Do they not care?
I think I try not to make a big deal out of that, John. I'm sure they probably don't like waiting all day long like me to play. It's a long day, especially on the road. The road team is, I would say, it's probably harder, just because you have an earlier shoot around, maybe noon, and then you got till 9 and you're in the hotel the whole time. And so it makes for a long day. At home it's a little different. You go to class, we don't have to shoot till 3:45. We eat at 5. The hard part too on the road is traveling back. Like, you just can't have practice the next day. I mean, like yesterday, we were here watching film and walkthrough. We couldn't go live. I'm sure Clemson probably went live because they were at home on Saturday during the day or whenever they played. And so it's tough. We got 4 of them. And then we had an 8 o'clock up there at Boston College. And so it does make for a long day. I haven't made a big deal with the players, but my guess is if you ask them, they'd probably rather play normal time, whatever that is. What is normal time anymore? I don't know. I mean, TV has kind of changed that 7. When I was at East Tennessee State, we played every Saturday game at 4 at home. I like the earlier games because then you just get up and you go through your stuff and you go play. It's less stress during the day.
Coach, you've talked before about
Hey, Steve, JB here from Spectrum. If I could sneak in and get a question with you real quick, I wanted to ask you about Coach Brownell's. He had some high praise for you during the ACC teleconference, and obviously going into tomorrow's game about the way you've just been able to transition and succeed with this type of basketball that we're having in college sports, transfers, transfer portal, and NILs and all that or whatever. And you've been kind of on point each year you've been here at Wake Forest. I know you don't want to give up the sauce. It's whatever the secret sauce is on why you've been able to succeed. I know you don't want to give that up, but maybe share some ingredients on why you've been able to be so successful during this day and age of college basketball and how it's been able to show itself on the floor.
Well, first, we don't have any NIL, so our team is a non-NIL team in the Power Five, and that's probably not very many of those. I don't really have an exact answer to that. I wish that I could, and if I did, I wouldn't give it to you, because then I wouldn't want to share the secrets. Right? It's kind of like Colonel Sanders, right, Les? Secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. You can't give that out. I don't know. I think that, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I said this at 11:30. My wife chose to marry me for some reason. I don't know why. She saw something in me that nobody else did. And, I think it's some of that. I think it's, I look for guys that I feel like can score. I look for guys that are unselfish. I look for guys that I like to play, like to compete. So how do you know that? Well, some of it you don't. Some of it you got to make a lot of calls, and you got to do your background work, and you got to ask questions, and you got to spend time talking to them and getting to know them. You want to match up your vision with their vision, right? Because it won't work with a transfer if you tell them something and then you don't do it. You understand what I mean by that, right? I mean, when they're transferring, they're looking for something different. And if I tell them, if I paint a picture to them that this is how you're going to play, this is how we're going to use you, and then you come here and we don't do that, then it's not going to work. Now, with that being said, I can paint the picture, but you still have to do it too, right? I think that a lot of it's giving them confidence to play that way too. I think it's important for the players to have confidence. Ty is a great example. Now, Ty's a guy I have a great relationship with. He plays really hard, loves to compete, loves to practice, but he can get a little loose. And when he does, I'm there to let him know. It's also holding them accountable to the way you want them to play, the vision that you have for him, the vision he has for himself. So, there's a lot of things that go into it. I don't, especially at Wake, because you also have the academic piece. There's other guys I probably would recruit that just, it's not a good fit academically, and so there's a lot of things that go into it. Last year we hit, with Landis, player of the year, Jake, first round pick, Dallas, Hadeem, Davian. This year Damari's playing really well. Andrew's playing great. Obviously Ty's playing great, and Davion is helping our team. And so they've all, had their contributions. Jow, I just don't know. Jow played really well in the scrimmage against Ohio State for 5 minutes. And then that was it, and so, I'm a little frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm not frustrated. I'm frustrated for him, because that's not the vision he had when he came here. That's not the vision I had for him. But it's kind of like Matt Marsh's deal last year. He got this concussion at a bad time, and then the train kept moving. And the train's got to keep moving no matter what happens. And so, he just kind of got left behind in that area, and he just never got 100%. Nobody's probably 100%, but he's just not the same player that I saw all summer and I saw in the fall. So he's really the only one, that, and I think he would have probably helped. And I think it's a really hard thing to do, to hit in recruiting like that. And people always want to talk about high school recruiting. Oh, that's fine. I mean, but nobody's going to be hit on all those guys either. And we've done it at a high level with the transfers. And I think we've hit on some good high school players too. I think Bobby's going to be, a really good player. Cameron's showing that he is. I haven't given up on Lucas and Rob. They're working hard. Matthew's a high school player. So it's a balance of both. You can't just do one. It's got to be both. I really like Aaron Clark, who we signed early. He's a high school player from Brewster. So listen, recruiting is not what it was 5 years ago. It wasn't what it was 10 years ago. I know there's all these recruiting experts out there that think they know recruiting. They don't. And because we're the ones having the conversations every day. And so, I feel pretty confident in what we're doing, and we're going to continue on that path.
Steve, you're hosting back-to-back top 20 teams this week. The two very best teams in the league in defense versus the number one offensive team in the league. Is it safe to say this feels like a pretty big week for Wake Forest basketball?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there's still a lot of basketball left to play, but you want to play meaningful games no matter when they are, right? Like Wisconsin was a big game, Rutgers was a big game, LSU, some of these other Georgia playing well, Utah Valley's playing great. But yeah, as far as the league play is concerned, and like you said, having a couple of nationally ranked teams coming in here back to back, yeah, it's a big week. And those are challenges, big challenges, because both those teams are, can really guard and they can score too now. And they got, really good coaches. They're tough and they're physical. And that was the thing I was most proud of Saturday about my team was I challenged them to play tough. Do not look for fouls. Don't look for me. Don't expect me to bail you out. You got to play through the contact. You got to keep them off the glass because that's their best defense. They're one of some of their best, offensive rebound. And I thought we did that, and they'll be the same thing, just a little different on Tuesday and Saturday. But these will be tough physical teams. And yeah, I think it's a big week. I think, if you love basketball and you love Wake Forest, it's a couple great games to come out and see.
Steve, was Saturday night one of the games you would qualify as a tough guy game? Talked about those earlier this year. And then
Yeah.
would the next two be tough guy games too?
Maybe three, because I haven't watched Pitt as much, but my intel tells me that they're physical too. Yeah, for sure. These next three for sure, and then you throw BC in there, and and I think that we've had a run of these. I think we've had a really hard schedule, and I don't know the strength of schedule of the league schedule, but I would guess we have one of the hardest ACC schedules too. And so. It is what it is, right? You just got to play them and you take the next one that's in front of you and you try to attack it. And that's what we'll do today at 3:00. And, we'll do it again tomorrow and then get ready to play it at 9.
Coach, I wanted to ask about home court this year. You guys have been really strong at home, undefeated. What do you think is behind that success, and how big of an opportunity is it to face these two, great teams in the ACC in front of a home crowd back to back?
Well, I've always believed that if you're going to have an elite program, you got to have an elite home court advantage. You got to win your home games. And I think, if you look back at my history, that's what we've done. I went 4 years in a row without losing a home game at one point. And then we lost 12 home games in 5 years at East Tennessee State. And so that's the plan here. That's the first thing. You got to have a home court advantage. And then I think too, when you win at home, it gives your fans the reason to come back and watch you play, And so I think we're gaining momentum there. We can always be better. I mean, I don't like seeing the opposing team in the lower bowl. That's not good. And, you have a choice. Come to the game. You have a choice to give your ticket to somebody who cheers for Wake Forest, sell your ticket to somebody who wants to work, cheer for Wake Forest, or, don't sell them to the opposing team. And, that's my opinion. Now, that is for what it's worth, but we'll be back right when we don't see blue, or we don't hear we don't have all the App State fans sitting in the bottom bowl, and so, if you don't think I don't notice that, I do. And so now it's not going to win or lose the game, but to have a home with what you're talking about, well, then we got to show up. We got to show up. And I think our players are showing up, and the proof is in the numbers. And so, come watch them. They're fun to watch. They're good guys, and they play hard, and they care about what's on the front of the jersey and not on the back of the jersey. And I like that about them.
Anything else for Coach today?
Get a nap and then come watch.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I played my very first college head coaching game was at 6 a.m. All right, against Wisconsin Green Bay on 24 hours of hoops. The pregame meal was at 2 a.m. No, actually, I think it was at 4:30. That was a long day. That was a long day, but it was fun. So yeah, I mean, I get it. If you got children, and I had kids. I mean, I got 3, and they got to go to school. It's a late night. I don't understand that, or they got to get them to go to work. There's a lot of things. I just like to see our fans in the bottom and put the other ones at the top.
Anything else? All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.